Most men believe willpower is the key to discipline. They think if they were just stronger, more focused, more motivated, they would never quit. That belief is comforting and completely false. If willpower actually worked, discipline wouldn't collapse the moment life became uncomfortable. Willpower fails for one simple reason. It requires constant permission. Every day you ask yourself again. Every task you renegotiate. Every moment of discomfort you debate. And debate is where discipline dies. The samurais saw this centuries ago. They watched men rely on effort and emotion, and they watched those men break. Not during battle, not during crisis, but during routine. This is stillness and direction. If you're here looking for motivation, this will disappoint you. But if you want to understand why your discipline collapses even when you try hard, stay. And if this way of thinking resonates, like the video and subscribe, not for hype, but so you stay connected when willpower disappears again. Here's the truth most men refuse to face. Willpower is not weak, it's temporary. It spikes under pressure, it vanishes under repetition. That's why men start strong and fade quietly. They wake up determined, they push themselves, they feel in control. Then the days become normal. No urgency, no threat, no reward. And suddenly, discipline feels optional. I'll do it later. Today doesn't matter. I've already been disciplined. That moment feels harmless. It isn't. That is the exact moment willpower collapses. The samurai never trusted willpower for this reason. They understood something modern culture still ignores. Anything that depends on emotion will eventually be negotiated away. Willpower asks how you feel. Discipline cannot afford that question. So the samurai replaced willpower with something colder. Ritual. Not motivation, not inspiration. Ritual. A fixed sequence that does not ask permission. The samurai didn't wait to feel disciplined. They acted because the action was required. No internal conversation, no self-encouragement, no emotional buildup. This is why their discipline looked harsh. From the outside, it seemed extreme, unforgiving, rigid, but it survived. Modern men fail because they rely on inner strength. The samurai built outer structure. They assumed the mind would resist. They assumed emotion would fluctuate. They assumed desire would weaken. So they removed choice before resistance could appear. This is the part most men misunderstand. They think discipline is about being strong in the moment. The samurai knew discipline is about never arriving at the moment where strength is required. Willpower is always late. Ritual is always on time. That is why willpower breaks, and why discipline rituals endure. If this chapter feels uncomfortable, that's good, because it's already dismantling the lie you've been relying on. In the next chapter, I'll reveal the first ritual the samurai used to enforce discipline before emotion could interfere, a practice so strict most modern men reject it instantly. And that rejection explains everything. The samurai had no interest in emotional discipline. They didn't ask men to feel obedient. They trained men to obey before feeling appeared. This is what Shitsuke actually meant. Not motivation, not self-control, conditioned discipline. Shitsuke was built on a ruthless understanding. If discipline waits for emotion, it will arrive too late. So the samurai acted earlier, before resistance, before excuses, before the mind had time to speak. Shitsuke trained obedience as a reflex, not to a person, not to authority, but to form. Time, posture, sequence, these were non-negotiable. When the hour arrived, the body moved, not because the man wanted to, because the system demanded it. This is where modern men recoil. They hear obedience and think submission, weakness, loss of self. The samurai saw the opposite. Obedience to structure eliminated inner chaos. There was no argument inside the mind, no debate, no emotional buildup, just action. Most men exhaust themselves deciding, should I do it now? Later? Do I feel ready? Is this necessary today? Each question drains willpower. Shitsuke removes the questions entirely. You do not decide. The decision was already made, long before emotion arrived. This is why Shitsuke feels harsh at first. There is no room for mood, no space for flexibility, no sympathy for comfort. And this is exactly why it works. The samurai understood something modern culture avoids. Freedom is not the absence of rules, it is the absence of inner negotiation. Shitsuke freed men from themselves, from hesitation, from doubt, from the endless internal noise that weakens discipline. This is why most men reject it. They want to feel in control. Shitsuke removes that feeling and replaces it with something quieter, reliability. You act when it's time. You stop when it's complete. You repeat tomorrow. No emotional reward, no sense of victory, just correctness. This chapter filters people. If you need discipline to feel empowering, Shitsuke will feel unbearable because it does not flatter you. It does not praise effort. It does not care about intention, only execution. The samurai believed intention was irrelevant. Only form mattered. This is why Shitsuke endured generations. It did not rely on strong men. It created reliable ones. But obedience alone is not enough, because obedience breaks when discomfort grows too loud. The samurai knew this. That is why Shitsuke was paired with a second discipline, one that trained men to endure pain without complaint or collapse. In the next chapter, I'll reveal Gaman, the discipline that hardened the will by teaching men to suffer silently. This is where most modern men fail permanently. Shitsuke created obedience, but obedience alone was never enough. Because discipline does not break when things are easy. It breaks when discomfort lasts longer than expected. The samurai understood this weakness clearly. Men can obey rules for a short time. They can endure hardship briefly. But when discomfort stretches on, the mind begins to complain. And complaint is where will begins to rot. This is why the samurai trained Gaman. Gaman does not mean toughness. It does not mean pushing harder. It means enduring without expression. No complaint, no negotiation, no emotional release. This sounds simple. It is not. Most men think suffering is about pain. It isn't. Suffering is about reaction to pain. The samurai did not try to remove discomfort. They removed the need to respond to it. Gaman trained men to sit inside discomfort without changing posture, without shifting expression, without explaining themselves internally. This is where modern men fail instantly. They don't collapse from pain, they collapse from self-talk. This shouldn't be this hard. I've done enough. I deserve relief. Each sentence weakens the will. Gaman forbids these sentences, not by arguing with them, by refusing to speak at all. Silence was the training. When pain arrived, nothing changed. Posture remained exact, breath remained steady, movement remained controlled. This was not stoicism for appearance, it was neurological training. The samurai knew something brutal. Every complaint strengthens the habit of quitting, even silent complaints. Gaman cut this habit at the root. No venting, no dramatizing, no internal justification, just endurance. This is why Gaman feels inhuman to modern men. They are taught that expression is healthy, that release is necessary. The samurai disagreed. They believed expression trains weakness. Not because pain isn't real, but because reacting to it teaches the mind that discomfort deserves attention. Gaman taught the opposite. Discomfort is irrelevant. This is where most viewers leave, because this discipline attacks identity. It removes the right to explain your pain, and modern men cling to that right. They believe suffering must be acknowledged to be endured. The samurai believed the opposite. Acknowledgement multiplies suffering. Silence contains it. This is why Gaman forged unbreakable will, not by eliminating pain, but by eliminating response. When pain no longer changes behavior, it loses authority. That is unbreakable will. Not strength, not aggression, indifference to discomfort. Shitsuke trained obedience before emotion. Gaman trained endurance when emotion arrived. Together, they formed something permanent, a discipline that did not rely on mood, a will that did not crack under repetition. In the next chapter, I'll show you why ritual, not motivation, was the glue that held Shitsuke and Gaman together, and why modern men keep trying to replace ritual with inspiration and keep failing. This is where modern discipline completely misunderstands the samurai. Most men believe discipline requires motivation, energy, drive, a reason to push. The samurai believed the opposite. If discipline requires motivation, it will fail the moment motivation disappears. So they removed motivation from the equation entirely. They replaced it with ritual. Ritual is not repetition for comfort. It is repetition that removes decision. When a ritual exists, there is nothing to choose. The hour arrives, the body moves, the sequence begins. No emotional preparation, no internal speech, no permission granted. This is why ritual survives boredom. Boredom needs choice to survive. It whispers, change it, skip today, do it later. Ritual offers no response. There is nothing to change. The samurai days looked repetitive for a reason. Same wake time, same movements, same order. Modern men see this and think it is limiting. The samurai saw it as liberating, because repetition killed internal noise. There was no question of, how do I feel today? That question had already been removed. Motivation, on the other hand, always asks questions. Am I ready? Is this important today? Do I have the energy? Every question drains discipline. Ritual drains nothing. This is why motivated men burn out and ritual-trained men endure. Motivation spikes. Ritual continues. The samurai also understood something subtle. Ritual trains the body faster than the mind. The body learns before emotion arrives. So when discomfort appears, the ritual is already in motion. This is why Shitsuke and Gaman survived together. Shitsuke enforced action. Gaman absorbed discomfort. Ritual was the bridge. Without ritual, obedience breaks. Without ritual, endurance collapses. Modern men try to replace ritual with inspiration. They watch videos, they read quotes, they hype themselves up, and then they wonder why discipline fades. Because inspiration evaporates, ritual does not. Ritual does not care if you are inspired. It does not care if you are tired. It does not care if you are bored. It only cares if the sequence is executed. This chapter should feel uncomfortable, because ritual removes freedom in the exact place where weakness enters. Most men want discipline that feels flexible. The samurai wanted discipline that could not be escaped. That is why their will was forged, not tested. But ritual alone still isn't enough, because if discipline does not become identity, men will eventually look for an exit. In the next chapter, I'll show you why even men who obey rules and endure pain still end up quitting, and how the samurai closed that final escape permanently. This is where most men still fail. Even after obedience, even after endurance, even after ritual. Because they treat discipline as something they do, and anything you do, you can eventually stop doing. The samurai understood this final weakness. They saw men obey rules. They saw men endure pain. They saw men repeat rituals for years. And then, those same men quit. Not suddenly. Quietly. I've done enough. I've earned flexibility. I don't need to be this strict anymore. That thought is the beginning of collapse. Because discipline that lives outside your identity will always feel optional. Shitsuke and Gaman were never meant to be practices. They were meant to replace identity. The samurai did not think, I am disciplined. They thought, this is how a man conducts himself. That difference is everything. Once discipline becomes conduct, stopping feels incorrect. Not painful, not dramatic. Incorrect. Like breaking form, like violating posture, like stepping out of alignment. Modern men quit because they are waiting for relief. They believe discipline is a phase, a means to an end. I'll suffer now so I can relax later. The samurai rejected this completely. They believed a man either lives correctly or he does not. There was no finish line, no graduation, no moment where discipline relaxed its grip. This is why modern men burn out. They keep counting. Days, weeks, progress. Counting creates pressure. Pressure demands reward. And when reward doesn't arrive fast enough, discipline starts to feel pointless. The samurai did not count. They did not track streaks. They did not celebrate consistency. They executed, day after day, not because they were chasing something, but because deviation felt wrong. This is the final transformation. Discipline stops being effort and becomes form. You don't ask if you will act today. You don't negotiate timing. You don't reinterpret discomfort. You simply don't violate conduct. This is why most men never reach unbreakable will. They want discipline to serve them. The samurai demanded men serve discipline, and in return, discipline removed chaos. No debate, no hesitation, no collapse under boredom or pain. This chapter should unsettle you, because it removes the final excuse. If I just try harder, I'll get there. No, trying harder still implies choice. Unbreakable will appears when choice disappears. In the final chapter, I'll show you how the samurai completed this process, how willpower was no longer needed at all, and how a man becomes unbreakable, not by force, but by inevitability. This is where the samurai stopped talking about willpower entirely, because willpower implies effort. Effort implies resistance. Resistance implies the possibility of failure. The samurai did not want strong men. They wanted inevitable men. By this stage, Shitsuke had removed hesitation. Gaman had removed reaction. Ritual had removed choice. Identity had removed escape. There was nothing left for willpower to do, and that was the point. Unbreakable will was never something you summoned in moments of crisis. It was something that emerged naturally when nothing inside you was allowed to negotiate. The samurai did not wake up asking if they were strong enough. They woke up knowing what conduct required. Strength followed automatically. This is why modern men misunderstand inner power. They think it is something hidden inside them, waiting to be discovered. The samurai believed inner power was constructed, layer by layer, day by day, through repetition that never asked permission. When pain arrived, nothing changed. When boredom arrived, nothing changed. When fatigue arrived, nothing changed. And because nothing changed, nothing broke. This is the secret most men never learn. Will becomes unbreakable when it is no longer tested. Testing implies doubt. Doubt implies choice. The samurai removed both. They did not fight weakness. They made weakness irrelevant. This is why their discipline looked cold. No emotional speeches, no self-encouragement, no dramatic resolve. Just continuation. The modern world wants intensity. The samurai built permanence. Intensity burns bright. Permanence endures quietly. This is the final transformation. You stop asking how strong you are. You stop measuring motivation. You stop fearing collapse, because collapse no longer fits the structure you live inside. You are no longer relying on will. You are moving inside a system that does not allow quitting to make sense. This is what unbreakable will actually is. Not aggression, not toughness, not domination. Alignment so complete that deviation feels impossible. Most men will never build this because it requires surrendering the right to negotiate, the right to complain, the right to delay. The samurai surrendered those rights willingly, and in exchange they gained something permanent, a will that does not crack under pressure because it no longer depends on pressure at all. This is not a method you try, it is a way you live. Once adopted, it does not feel powerful, it feels inevitable. And inevitability is stronger than willpower will ever be.